And John, we're going to take a few minutes now at the end of your seminar to acknowledge your career. So this is the last seminar you'll be giving as a faculty member in the Department of Civil, Environmental, and Geoengineering. And again, thank you so much.
My name is Ray Zalski, and it's my great pleasure to introduce our Warren seminar speaker for today, my good friend and colleague, Dr. John Gulliver. John has been at the university for a long time. You might call him a lifer. He's been here for about 47 years in total, if you include his time as a master's and PhD student under the direction of Heinz Stefan here at the university in St. Anthony Falls in civil engineering. John has initially started his career doing a lot of work on gas transfer, including in and around hydraulic structures, spillways, and dams. And in the last 15, 16 years or so, John started getting involved quite heavily in research related to stormwater treatment, management, and assessment. And he's been quite active in that field and considered a major player, both in the state of Minnesota as well as nationally. John's published quite a few papers in this area. I counted somewhere between 35 and 40 papers on stormwater issues. And many of those are quite influential and quite highly cited, on the order of 140 times or so. And it's interesting to know, if you look at his CV, that 8 of his top 10 most cited papers were all published since about 2010. And many of those were in the stormwater field. So I guess you could say he migrated into a field that's clearly very hot. And John's also been publishing some really influential work in that area. So he's probably made a really good move to get into stormwater in the last 15 years or so. He was also, I also credit him with getting me involved in stormwater. He was looking for some partners to get involved in some of this work that he had coming up. And he thankfully asked me to be a partner in some of that work. And we managed to publish about 10 papers together in this area. So thanks. I thank John for that as well. John served the department in many capacities as, of course, a professor, but also a department chair, and was a leader for about 10 years in our department. And in addition, as I said, John's contributions in stormwater were quite influential, not only in terms of technology development, but also in theory and practice of how to both treat stormwater as well as assess the performance of stormwater management devices. He's patented several technologies, including Saffel baffle and a modified Philip Dunn permeameter and so on, that he'll talk about today, and iron enhanced sand filters, another technology that's been used quite a bit in the state. So he's had an influence both on the theory and science side, as in terms of journal publications, as well as the application side, which is really commendable. He's actually made a difference in terms of improving stormwater and the quality of stormwater runoff in the state of Minnesota and around the country. So John's been a real credit to this profession, and including a very influential player in the field of stormwater treatment and management.
As was mentioned in the introduction, John served as department head from October 1997 to June 2007. Under his leadership, the department faculty secured 2 major research centers, both sponsored by the National Science Foundation. So John, as current department head, I really marvel at your accomplishments, and I want to thank you for your dedication and service to the department. As I said, we're going to take a few minutes now. There are a few acknowledgements that are organized, and there will be time for the audience to also say a few words. And I'll ask people to raise their hands. We'll see how organized we can keep it. Unfortunately, your advisor, Heinz Stefan, could not be here, but of course he wanted me to extend his congratulations for an outstanding career. So on behalf of Heinz, great job, John. So I'll now turn it over to your colleague, Vaughn Voller, who will say a few words on behalf of the faculty.
When Joe asked me to do this, I'm very happy to do it, but I thought, oh boy, how can I condense 35 years? I think I've been working with John in some capacity, or I was a colleague, normally as an underling. He was director of graduate studies when I was on the graduate studies committee. he was being director of the lab, and of course, as Joe just mentioned, he was head of department. And so I was thinking, how can I pick out and distill John's contributions down to their very essence? I mean, what actually kind of illustrates what John is like? And I think, his seminar really kind of conveyed that. And it's actually very easy, I think, to distill John, what the essential essence of John is to the department. I think when one looks back on a career in academics, they tend in the first place, and I think Ray touched on this a little bit with John, to pick out the kind of academic achievements, the number of papers they've published, the students they've placed, and perhaps that dreaded H factor might come into kind of measure how great your academic career was. But I think that we, and I should emphasize that, as Ray mentioned, that John's CV is very rich in those items. But I think we should and could also look at something that you might call the K factor. So we all do highfalutin research. It's a very good name, the K factor, as you'll see what I'm going to come to. We all do highfalutin research, but we should be concerned about how fast does that research filter down, K factor, filter down into the practice. And I think when we looked at John's, the K factor, the hydraulic conductivity, how fast does it filter down? And we looked at John's seminar today, it's clear that his K factor is very high. And that's, I think, something that we should all kind of strive for, to have a high K factor in addition to our H factor. And as Ray mentioned, and as I think he clearly demonstrated in his wonderful talk, John has really excelled at leveraging his deep and rigorous understanding of water resources engineering and brought it down to an impact at the practical level. I think he was, one of the things that really stands out was the fact that he was an early kind of recognized early on this emerging idea of urban hydrology, and has been working on that field for some time. And now I think that's an area which is emerging very rapidly. If you look at, for example, Sway's recent grant, the LTR, is related to urban hydrology. John's been working in that field for almost 20 years. And in particular, his work on stormwater management, I think, is exemplary. It really takes demonstrating how you can take the understanding and the research and actually turn it into practical results and practical elements that actually help the practice. So good on you, John. It's great that you've done this work, and I'm hoping that now that you've freed from your departmental responsibilities, that you'll carry on producing for as long as you can. That was great. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Vaughn. Certainly, most of John's research has been performed at St. Anthony Falls Laboratory, so it's only fitting that we hear from the current director of St. Anthony Falls Laboratory, and that's Professor Lian Shen. So, Lian?
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Hi, my name is Lian Shen, and as you just introduced, I am the director of SAFO. So first, I would like to say that John is a great researcher that I have learned a lot from. So I just want to mention one thing, that is, okay, back at the beginning of the millennium, when I was a postdoc, then an authentic reference I constantly refer to for my own research on interfacial mass transfer, that was a book edited by John. And my research, as well as the PhD thesis of my first PhD student and my fourth PhD student, okay, they all greatly benefited from a study performed by John and his former student, okay, Tamburino. Okay. And I also see actually Aldo Tamburino is in the audience. Hi. Okay. And the second thing I want to mention is, well, okay, many years later, I had the pleasure and honor of becoming John's colleague and then serving as the director of SAFO. Okay. And John really has made enormous contributions to the lab. He led the lab in the past, okay? And besides his scientific research, well, which we heard a lot, okay? And also his contributions, okay, to applied research. Okay? And I want to mention this fact is, among all the inventions made from the lab, one of the greatest one, the most successful one, is the SAFO baffle. And lastly, okay, I want to point out that although we are celebrating John's achievements and retirement here. He is not retiring from research. At SAFL, John continues his research career with a group of 7 people, if I counted correctly, or if it's not further expanding. So, yeah, okay. So I look forward to seeing John continues to take his group to lunch every Tuesday after the pandemic. John, congratulations again. Okay. And thank you for your contributions to SAFL. And see you in the lab very soon.
Thank you, Leon.
Okay, thanks, Leon. Now it's time to hear from the students. So John has 100 or so PhD and master students, and we're fortunate to have Dr. Andy Erickson that'll give us a few comments. So Andy.
Very good, thank you. My name is Andy Erickson, but today I am the Lorax because I speak for the trees. And the trees are John's former graduate students because John has literally educated and mentored a forest. Thankfully, many of them have replied to my email to share their sentiments about John. I'm going to read a few of them while we travel back in time to see photos of John with his students over the years. John is a source of inspiration from his research and mentorship to his personal adventures and wonderful family. He was very kind, patient, and encouraging. Taught me to think outside the box, ask questions, and to push myself. John is extremely professional, knowledgeable, honest, generous, and committed, and I still admire him for who he is and what he does. Your dedication to people has been an inspiration to me just as much as your dedication to science. But more than being a great teacher, I remember your care for your students. You have been a great professor, scientist, mentor, and supporter. And I always love the kind, generous, and genuine person that you are. It is difficult to express your amazing ability of imparting knowledge and skills to your students. Little did I realize at the time, but that discussion would lead to some of the best years of my life working with John as a master's research at St. Anthony Falls Lab. I'm grateful for the opportunity you provided me in the years of wonder, exploration, and growth. But more than the experiments, equations, and to write papers, every day I try to take care of and support my students in the same way that you did with me. John changed my life, professionally and otherwise, 180 degrees in his typical nonchalant way. And I feel very lucky that he was my advisor, and even more, that we still have a strong friendship today. John was a great advisor and is a great friend. And that concludes my remarks on behalf of the graduate students. So thank you, John.
Yeah, great job, Andy. And yeah, we have to mount that last photo somewhere. Okay, this is open time, so we're doing well on time. If anyone would like to say a few words, and please keep it brief so we could give the 70 or so participants a chance if they do want to say something.
Everyone already told about John's scientific achievements, and students talked about him being a great advisor. And I would add to that John was always great colleague, very supporting, very engaged, and he was a great member of a coffee club, which we kept during the pandemic every day, online and sometimes in person. And I hope that John, when his retirement is not a retirement from being a great colleague and a member of a coffee club. Looking forward to see you more next years to come. Thank you, John, for being a great friend.
Thanks, Sonia. Bill, you're next.
I just want to say thanks, John. I think I was in the first batch of faculty that you hired as a department head, and I've greatly benefited from you making that decision and letting me have my career here. And you've roped me into some of this stormwater research and looking at sequestering nitrate and phosphorus in various stormwater scenarios. And another big memory I have is just, I appreciated that even when you were a department head, you'd come out into the faculty lounge and hang out and have lunch. And it was great to talk with you about all sorts of things that weren't scientifically related. So I'm glad you're still going to be around and look forward to still interacting with you.
I'm still grateful to John. He taught me an important lesson he was a student in my class in the mid 70s, and I was just fresh from the Netherlands, and learned British English. And I made an assignment that students had to take and wrote it out. And I had in there that something had to be proved. Well, John taught me how you make, that's an error. So he very gently pointed out that in the United States, actually, we prefer proven. It's an important lesson because Dutch are not well known for their gentle way of making comments. So I thought, well, that's a good way because I could see it was important to have my things right. And he pointed it out very gently. So that was an important lesson that I've never forgotten. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Otto. Kathy, you're next.
Thanks. It was already mentioned, but John, I greatly appreciate your support on behalf of the department in supporting things like the center, like with the Mass Lab that became one of the 15 national sites for equipment to do earthquake engineering and simulation research. But I think what's more than that, kind of looking at the department, you looked at it as a whole picture, not just excelling in research, being supportive of faculty and creating that community there. I think one of the things that you initiated too was our graduation ceremony that I think has really created a great community among our students and alumni. And I just, that's been carried on through the years. And I just think that has been tremendous as well. So thank you so much for everything, John.
Thanks, Kathy. Paige?
I just wanted to say, John was the chair of the search committee when Ray and I were hired. And so I owe my career directly to John. He was also my department head for the first 10 years of my career. And he's always been a supportive friend and a great supporter of my career. And he also supplied one of the best undergrad researchers that I've had in my lab, his daughter, Juna, who I'm happy to see has gone on to great things. So John, I'll miss having you around, but it's been an absolute pleasure to work with you.
I just wanted to say thanks for John. Like so many other people, I've been just greatly impacted, and at a professional level and at just his friendship. And I really can't count the number of times that I think of making a decision when I'm working with students or research or whatever. And I think, well, what would John do? And all through all of his accomplishments, the number of times that I've walked into his office or knocked on his door, he's always had the time and always seemed, just always has a time for students and everybody that comes in contact with him. So I just wanted to say thank you and look forward to continue working with you, John.
Thank you, Pete. Aldo?
Hi, John. Well, congratulations for your successful career. Well, it is hard to say something that the rest of the people already didn't see it. But I just want to tell you that you were more than a professor or an advisor. You were a great friend. Thanks very much for everything that you did, the support that I received from you. Always will appreciate it. And I always said that you are the example that I want to be for my students. So thanks for everything, John.
A message from Sebastian. John, congratulations, outstanding career. It's been an honor to be your colleague. All the best for the future.
Thanks, John. You know, I just want to say I've really cherished you in my my studies and in my professional life. I was reflecting on this last night as I was found that photograph of you in your maroon velvet gown. Just that, you know, when we were working together as a student, you know, I just thought we were just working together. And looking back, I just realized how generous you were with your time and yourself and your energy, and just, you know, what your life is, your career has been about, helping us, your students, you know, find ourselves in our careers, and I really value that. I even got to experience tough love from you a couple of times along the way. And I appreciate that too. So congratulations, John, and thanks for being who you've been.
So John hired me a long time ago, and he hired me as someone who had really very little background in civil engineering, none basically, and more of a background of physics. And he kind of trusted and encouraged me to find my way in this department that's so diverse. And that meant a lot to me. And he showed a lot of kindness along the way, and I feel like has really contributed to some of the best parts of our departmental culture. And I just wanted to give an example of one of the things he said early on when I came. He said, well, we need someone to teach computer applications for civil engineers. And I said, I don't know any computer applications for civil engineers. And he said, well, that's what we need. So you need to teach that. And then sort of a similar thing, advanced fluid mechanics. John, I've never had a fluid mechanics or taught fluid mechanics class or taught a fluid mechanics class. So well, we need someone to teach fluid mechanics. So please do it. And I think you can do it. And like that sort of throwing in the cold water with the confidence that came with it really has, I think back to that a lot when I come into something that I'm asked to do and it's hard and it's not really up my alley. And I remember that confidence in it, and it helps me a lot in my career. And I want to thank you for that, John, and your continued kindness as well.
Thanks, Kimberly. John?
Yeah, I want to just thank John for the interactions we've had over the last, I guess, since I've been here at Minnesota, 1985, I came here and met John, and we started working together probably about the mid-2000s, somewhere around there. We've had really very, I think, productive time working together. We're still working together, and I'm glad to see that he'll still continue around here, and we'll continue to be able to interact. I'll also just say that I've enjoyed being friends with John and with Karen, his wife, and I know that my wife Christine and I are looking forward to when we'll be able to the four of us be able to go dancing again in public.
Okay, thanks, John. And Omar?
Hey, John, Omar from West Virginia University. I am so grateful for your mentorship, and Andy actually read my comments, so I don't want to repeat those. I just want to emphasize one thing that I think I must. I found you such a wise man. Okay, you gave me so many advices, and I still remember those when I make decisions within academia, outside academia. So I'm just, incredibly grateful to your wisdom.
Thank you, Omar. Okay, a couple more. Bruce?
John, I just wanted to thank you for the work that you did with me. I've always been impressed with your ability to see the kernel, the most fundamental part of the problem, but I've also been impressed with your ability to manage projects. I think it's those years as department head, you really were able to put together teams and get the right people to work together on some of the problems you're tackling. So I look forward to working with you. I know we have a couple of projects underway, and I'm looking forward to continue working with you.
Yeah, I'm one of the guys, the first graduate student of John Gulliver, and we've known each other from over 30 years now. And I remember, and John actually commented, and we have this email going around. He actually starts with he would actually look at his undergrads, and then it influenced you to become a graduate student, and then lo and behold, he went from a master's to a PhD. But I just wanted to note that, and I think that this is coming through on many of the statements people are making about John. One thing that comes through loud and clear is his kindness, and he was kind to me. He's kind to his graduate students. He's kind to his staff. And I think that's a beautiful thing to say about a person. And so, John, I hope you find enjoyment, peace, and everything good in your next phase of your life. Your graduate students have all benefited from your role in their lives. And so I thank you, and God bless.
Yes, so I just wanted to say a few words. I'm sorry that John is retiring. He has been an inspiration for me. I remember all of those long nights that I was working in Saffold. Sometimes he was stopping by, knocking the door and asking, what are you doing? We always had nice chats. I was a student in one of his classes, but I want to re-echo or echo the words by Omar that in my short conversation sometimes with John, I found him a very wise man. He doesn't talk too much. He's extremely efficient in spending his energy. And from very short conversation that I often had with him, I learned a lot from him, and I always received wise advice from him. I'm thankful to you, John, because of your contribution. Some people are like columns for our institution, and you have been certainly a big column for Saffold, and we're looking forward to seeing you more. Don't forget us.
Thank you, Anderson. Nick, you're up.
Yeah, thank you. Well, for me, John, you provided a lot of first opportunities and so many memories. I think it started out with, I was an undergrad student at Saffold, and I think my first back pain was from carrying up all those bags of F10 sand to put into the stormwater separators to test out. And then you took me under your wing as an undergraduate researcher, helping out Brooke and Rebecca, which opened up a lot of doors for me, including an invitation to join you as a graduate student. And from there was my first flight solo out to Washington, D.C. to present materials, which required my first use of a credit card. I also appreciate all the times that you took your students out. Going to Kamarchek's was nice reprieve from studying, and a great way to connect with colleagues. And you've continued to facilitate that throughout my careers, is finding ways to connect your students to others. I'm thankful that I have a good working relationship with Alan, and we could find ways to bring you in to talk about stormwater at the Department of Transportation. And it wasn't easy to find your book. It was right behind me this whole time. I've kept it close. I can't say that I've been able to use it much, but I do think of it from time to time when I'm stirring up a drink and thinking about turbulent diffusion. So thank you, John. I'm glad that you've remained close friends with my family, Thor and Poldy. So congratulations.
Thanks, Nick. Henrik, you're next.
I was lucky enough, and I was honored to be selected as a sort of running mate during John's tenure as a department head. And that gave me a lot of opportunity to observe his character, the way he treats people, and his kindness. And I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
I want to thank you for your service, and I will always remember the racquetball games and jazz gigs we enjoyed together. All the best.
I just want to say thanks to John. I always thought he was a risk taker, not so much in research, but in people. He gave a lot of us a chance when perhaps others wouldn't have, and sometimes multiple chances. And it made a big impact in my life and a lot of people's lives. Thanks, John.
Okay, thank you. John, before I sign off, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, I would. This is very much a surprise. I don't know how you contacted all the students, because I didn't share my email list with anybody. Somebody must have had their contacts. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. The pictures were interesting. I noticed that after the 90s, I didn't have any hair. I didn't realize it was that early when I didn't have any hair, but suddenly in the 2000s, I suddenly didn't have any hair. And that was what I remarked upon most with those set of pictures. I'd like to thank everybody who came, the people who spoke, of course, but also the people who didn't. I mean, you don't always have to say something to be present. Ali Ibrahimian is here, Cecilia Olivier, fantastic. Farzana Ahmed, that's great. Let me see who else. It's difficult. Oh, Jason Giovanni Tony, that's fantastic that you're all here. Kyle Weisheim, Ina, Danielle, Nicholas Teka. I really appreciate your all coming. Katie Kromacek. Let me see, I'm looking through. I know I'm forgetting somebody. I want to include you all. Oh, Adam Witt. Hi, Adam. I guess that's it. But thank you all for coming. I'm especially happy to have the students show up and hear what I've been doing lately. So that's it.
Okay, I'd like to thank all the participants, and John, on behalf of the department, the college, and the university, we wish you good health and continued success. See you around. Bye.
Bye, John.